Welcome back. We are talking, or we got one question answered with Professor Matt Levendusky. He's the professor of political science at the University of Pennsylvania. Let's go to the research that he did. He wrote this paper in Cambridge.org, The Micro Foundations of Mass Polarization by Matthew S. Levendusky, published by the Cambridge University in January 2017. Here's what that study said. Although there has been considerable attention to the question of how much polarization there is in the mass electorate, there has been much less attention paid to the mechanism that causes polarization. I provide evidence demonstrating the occurrence of individual level conversion, individual Democrats and Republicans becoming more liberal and conservative. Although over the short term, most of the observed changes are quite small and cannot be distinguished from measurement error, over time in many respondents, these movements aggregate to generate polarization. Small individual level preference shifts provide an important foundation for aggregate polarization. This would back up the big sort, which says that people move to a community, maybe not politically, maybe for economics or lifestyle reasons, but then they start voting the way the neighborhood is because of small individual interactions. He wrote this paper in 2017 for Cambridge. He's talking about polarization and how it changes at the individual level. So I reached out to him and I said, I read your paper. Can I interview you? Can I ask you one question? Do you think polarization is worse now than when you wrote your paper in 2017? The answer depends in part on what you mean by polarization, but mostly the answer is yes. See, for example, figure 1 of Our Common Bonds. So we got a picture of his book. Our Common Bonds is a book written by him using what Americans share to help bridge the partisan divide, a compelling exploration of concrete strategies to reduce partisan animosity by building on what Democrats and Republicans have in common. Our Common Bonds shows that although there is no silver bullet that will eradicate partisan animosity, there are concrete interventions that can reduce it. Matthew Levendusky argues that partisan animosity stems in part from partisans' misperceptions of one another. Democrats and Republicans think they have nothing in common, but this is not true. Drawing on survey and experimental evidence, the book shows that it is possible to help partisans reframe the lens through which they evaluate the out party by priming commonalities, specifically shared identities outside of politics, cross-party friendships, and common issue positions and values identified through civil cross-party dialogue. Doing so lessens party animosity, and it can even reduce ideological polarization. The book discusses what these findings mean for real-world efforts to bridge the partisan divide. So, drawing on survey and experimental evidence, the book shows it is possible to help partisans refrain the debate. Democrats and Republicans think they have nothing in common, but this is not true. So I'm guessing that this is going to be another, we have a bunch of surveys showing that a lot of people agree. So if you guys can recognize that the other person isn't a complete monster and has some good ideas and is a decent human, then maybe we can all come together. But because the parties think that there is no commonality between them and that everybody in the other party is a monster, that's what creates political polarization. Makes sense. A lot of other people have said that. That's from his book. And he gets at that a little bit here with this article. So I asked him, do you think polarization is worse now than when you wrote in your paper in 2017? The answer depends in part on what you mean by polarization, but by most measures, yes. See, for example, figure 1 of Our Common Bonds. So I do have Our Common Bonds. So I'm going to look that up right now. You're watching me look it up right now. I bought that book for this. Figure 1.1. Okay. This is what he shows. So this is figure 1.1. I don't know if that's super legible. Basically, it's a chart. Same party and other party feeling thermometer trends. Same party feeling thermometer ratings are given in black. Other party feelings thermometer ratings are given in gray. The solid lines are values for face-to-face respondents. The dashed lines for online respondents. So there's a black line here. Same party feelings. other party feelings. So if you look at this chart, there's two lines. That's the black line, and underneath it, very faint, is the gray line. And what he's showing, if you look at the black line, people had a lot of faith in their party till around the year 2012, and then it started to dip. And then people had somewhat of a decent opinion of the other party until, wow, 1998, and then it started to drop around 98. Again, sorry. So around 1998, you started to see a serious drop in how people felt about the other party. But you had to go back to 2012 before people started taking a hit on their opinion about their party right there. So that's what he's showing. Starting in 1998, people have started to have really negative downward trend opinions about the other party. Most measures, you look at polarization, it is worse. That's what this professor who wrote this study in 2017 said. And he's also a professor of political science at the Penn Arts and Sciences University. So, yes. And he said, look at my chart of our common bonds, which shows starting in 1998 that negative opinions to the other party started dramatically going up and being worse. So great data point, and we're going to add that to the data. So, okay, we'll leave it there. That's what this professor says, just another data point, and we'll be back with more.